Welcome back. Over the years, clients, mentees, friends, family members, and people online have asked me a lot of questions about relationships, mental health, personal growth, life transitions, and getting unstuck. So I thought it would be fun to do an Ask Me Anything series and answer some of the questions that come up most often. These aren't going to be perfect answers. In fact, they're completely unscripted. They're simply my perspective as a coach, mentor, and fellow human being trying to figure out life alongside everybody else. Let's jump in. Question number one. How do I know if my relationship is actually over? This is one that I get from people in relationships where they've typically been trying for a long time and they sincerely don't know how to make the decision over what they're going to do next. My take on this generally is, what do you want? And what I mean by that is, have you thought about all of the ramifications of terminating this relationship? What do you want from your life in the next year, 5 years? When you look at your partner right now, as things are, can you look at them and see yourself being healthy in that time frame? If the answer is no, that's one of the big signs that it's time to move on. Now, I'm very cautious about telling people this. Typically, when I'm speaking to someone who's a client, I understand where they're coming from. I know that for the majority of the people who reach out to me, if I'm honest, they are desperate. They've tried everything. They've read the books, they've gone to counseling, and they really aren't sure if anything's going to work. Now, my take on this might be different than other people because for me, I think that unfortunately, by time people get to counseling or going to a coach, the reality is that they really have started to build up a lot of resentment in themselves. The framework that I use in my coaching is built off of the Gottman's foundation theory. And the Gottman have the four horsemen. The worst of the four horsemen is resentment. Resentment is when you have built up this negative attribution of your partner. No matter what you do, you apply a negative attribute to everything that happens with them. If they said something to you that they said 5 years ago, it wouldn't come through the same filter as when that time had started. It wouldn't be the same as when you were dating or when you were newlyweds, because frankly, you've built up a whole negative mindset towards your partner. Now, there are ways to recover from this. So I'm not usually telling people that things are impossible. For me as a coach, I'm going to work with you on tactics that help you to rebuild how you see your partner if your view of your partner is not strictly logical. If it's that you've just been through so much with them that's negative and you are willing to do the work to move forward and try to do different things, understanding that it's trial and error. You could try different things. If your partner is not willing to try anything different or be open to anything different, unfortunately, sometimes that is the last straw also. I'm also a fan of what's called a structured separation, where you tell your partner that if things aren't going to change, that we are getting separated. This can mean that you are going to take some time to work on yourselves, to do what you need to do. It doesn't mean that you are not going to work on the relationship. It just means that you can't continue with things how they are, which is a very important thing to let your partner know. So I guess the big answers for me are, it depends on whether you really believe that your partner can do things differently, on whether you can see things differently, and on whether you're willing to do something different with your partner. That would be my shortest answer for it. This on its own could be a whole episode. Next question. What do you do when you don't know what you want? This comes up all the time, actually. I ask people, usually I start with people's goals, and they have a long list of what they don't want, and they really don't know what they want, and they can't think about what they want to do in a month, a year, or whatever. And frankly, my answer to what do you do when you don't know what you want is to focus on what you don't want, to think about what it is that you don't want your life to be. If you want your life to be the same, typically doing the same thing isn't just going to get you the same results. You might hear that all the time. But if you keep doing the same thing, the most likely thing is that things are going to get worse. They're not going to keep being the same thing. So when you think about the things that you don't want to stay unemployed or in the job that you hate. You don't want to stay in a relationship that's making you miserable. You don't want your physical health to remain what it is. You are sure about those things. You're sure that you want those things to change. And my approach to that is trial and error. What are you willing to try? in the next bit. One step, one individual thing that you can change this week, and you keep going to try and figure out what it is that you want. A lot of life is trial and error. So I'm 52 and some of my clients are in their 30s. Some of them are older than me. And what I can say from working with people in that range is people don't know what they want a lot of time. We're just sort of figuring it out. And we have to be okay with the fact that we're trying to figure it out. One of the best things you can do to try and figure it out is try something different, even a small thing, to see if it changes your life. Next question. How do I stop feeling guilty after a breakup? Oh, this is a tough one. Our feelings are actually really tough. Understand this big fact. You may have had a part in what ended the relationship that you were in, but it was most likely not all your fault. A lot of people who feel this way are actually feeling bad for other people. They're feeling bad for their kids. They're feeling bad for their family. Some of them even feel bad for their significant other, no matter what terrible things that significant other did to them. So one of the important things to do, which actually works for a lot of things, is to journal, is to write down why you made the decision to end the relationship. This might be something that you actually need to work on a therapist with. There might be deep seated things that go back to your childhood about the role that you were supposed to have in the relationship and how it was supposed to work. But I'm telling you right now that the guilt is typically part of grief, and you need to not gaslight yourself about the reasons that you ended the relationship. For most of us, we did everything that we could. And I know because I've been through this myself. We did everything that we could in order to make that relationship work, even sacrificially. And when we got to the point when we decided that we needed, not wanted, needed to end that relationship, it wasn't something that was a light decision. And frankly, most people or a lot of people agonize over that decision long after they think that they're done. They agonize over that decision for months, sometimes years before they do anything about it. So the guilt is often misplaced. Most people didn't flippantly end a long-term relationship. I'm assuming this question is about a long-term relationship, not, somebody that you've just been dating for a couple weeks. But if you're feeling guilt, it's quite likely that you're not considering all of the factors that brought you to the point where you needed to end the relationship. And I would really encourage you to give yourself that space. Give yourself the space to think about it. Talk to someone about, I call it doing a retro. So do a retro on how you got to the point of wanting to end the relationship and work through it. Because a lot of the time, our feelings are valid, but they're not always correct. And sometimes we're rewriting the possible future. Oh, what if I just did one more thing? Maybe if I did something different, they would have been different. Reality is that you probably did do a lot of things before you got to this. And the flip side of that is there are people who break up and get back together again. I only recommend this if the relationship that they're going to is going to be different than the one that they left, which means at least one of the people in the relationship has changed how they think about the relationship and how they're going to act about the relationship. To be frank, it's usually both people have changed. Otherwise, I wouldn't recommend going back because of guilt. Next question. What's the biggest lesson you've learned from coaching? I can't fix people. I am not here to give advice for the most part. I'm here to give people strategies. I'm here to support people through the changes that they are ready to make. And people typically have good answers within themselves, or they know what they need to do. They just don't know how to do it. They completely have the right idea about what they want as their end state, or they're really just confused about what to do next. And they're deeply uncomfortable, but they need someone to talk to. They need someone to listen and not make it about themselves. They need someone who's not going to jump to fixing or jump to solutioning. The first thing that I do is listen. This is something that I learned from coaching. And in my previous career, I was an analyst. And long before that, I was in customer experience. And the bottom line is you really can't help people if you're not able and willing to listen to them and understand what it is that they actually want or need for themselves. So the two big things that I've learned from coaching is the importance and power of listening, and also in letting people think about and be free to talk about what's going on in their lives without having somebody jump in and tell them what it is or tell them what I would do in that situation or try to fix them. Because most often they don't need fixing, they just need support. Next question. How do I find purpose? Finding purpose for myself and for my clients is something that I sincerely believe comes by trying different things. There's fleeting happiness, right? Where we talk about this thing makes me happy and I'll pick on fast food without any brand names. A cheeseburger makes me happy, but it doesn't bring me joy. I don't have fulfillment from eating a cheeseburger. If I ate a cheeseburger every day, I'm not going to get fulfillment or long-term joy from it. The best cheeseburger, and I've had some good ones, is not going to actually make me happy in the long term. It's not something that's going to be life-changing or allow me to pour into other people and give them life. When you find purpose, purpose isn't always found through your work or your relationship or anything like that. I would say it's actually pretty much a spiritual experience being able to live in your purpose. And I'll just speak for myself. When I was a teenager, my dad would say, "You're not going to make money talking to people about their problems and helping them solve their problems." Because I was always on the phone talking to people till late at night about whatever their problems were. And back in the 90s, the light would be on my dad's phone. So he knew I was on the phone. And he said, "I got to get a job doing something where I can make good money." And the bottom line is for all of my careers, for all of the jobs that I have, all of them have been listening to people and helping them transition through very difficult problems. So I know that that's my purpose because it's the only thing I've ever done. And it does, back to the fulfillment, it does make me feel fulfilled. It does bring me joy that is not fleeting. And I know in a very spiritual way that it's what I was made to do. So I hope that you can find it for yourself. And I think that, again, it's trial and error. It's also looking back, like I just said about your past, at the things that brought you joy, at the things that make you feel fulfilled. So those are the questions for today. If you have any questions, feel free to post them in the comments, or you can email me at coachjasonmonroe@gmail.com. I'd be happy to answer them in the next episode, which will be in about a month. I plan to do one of these between each series. Take care. I hope this helps. Bye now.